It's October 21st. This will be our chart lesson for today. As you can see, we just had another sideways day. It was kind of a quiet range type day. We sold off early, but recovered most of that before the day was over. We still closed a little down from Friday, but not by much. You can see this long stem. We recovered most everything that sold off for the most part. We did relieve some of the overbought situation, so we got room to go higher still yet here. So we'll see what tomorrow brings, but right now we're just kind of working sideways, and it wouldn't surprise me if we don't do that for a few days and before maybe pushing up again into the election. We'll see what happens, but I don't think we're going to have any major sell-off or anything before the election. We could have a correction, but I don't think it'll be much. So just hang in there. Whatever it does send us, we're going to trade it. And I mean, that's the great thing about trading the price action. You don't have any preconceptions. You wake up each morning, you study your chart a minute, you figure out what prices are doing, and you go with them, and you continue to follow them as the day progresses. So that's what we're looking at. But anyway, real quickly, let's go ahead and flip over to our 2,000 tick chart and see what it looks like. And I do have a couple other things I want to discuss real quickly before we get into our chart lesson. But let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. Okay, here's our 2,000 tick chart. And if you've been following along, you know we've got our news indicator up here. We started using a new one, and we're having the same problem. There's a couple of different things with the new one. One is the new one does not leave the items on the chart. If you go into your indicators here, I've done a new one that I'm testing right now. If it's good, I'm gonna send it out. I'm gonna put it on the site. You can download it. It basically works the same. I made a few changes to the previous one and added some of ours, fix it up where it works the way I like it. But you can see here that there is a section here that displays the news for X number of minutes after the news event. So at the end of the day, you won't see the news events on your chart. I'm not sure how long what we can do this. I'm going to try doing 6 hours. So that would be 360 minutes. Is that correct? 6 times 60 is 360. Yes. So I'm going to change that to, well, it's not going to let me go more than 300 minutes, I don't think. No, 300 minutes is it. So that should at least, I don't know, it's still probably not going to be on there by the time I do my chart at the end of the day. But maybe I'll work on this some more and see if I can extend this out a little bit. But we'll leave it at 300 minutes for now. But you can see this does at least have our name on it, and it's set for the settings the way I like it as well. But the problem, there's been two problems with the new thing. Is one, the news falls off after X number of minutes. And again, I may work on that and try to correct that where it can go longer, where it can be at least be on the chart when I do the chart lesson at the end of the day. But the other thing is, the reason we were having trouble getting the other one to load is it's not the indicator itself, it is the data provider where we get our indicator. Most everybody uses Forex Factory. They tend to have the best, as far as I know right now, they're the only ones that provide an XLM file that you can download and use in an indicator like we're using. And the problem is, let's go back in here again to this indicator. And there's a thing here, it says how often it refreshes your news interval. Change that to 12 hours, because what's happening is, I guess there's so many people using that XLM file that Forex Factory is now limiting how many times you can connect within a certain period of time. So if you've got 3 or 4 charts open and you have the news item on all of them, and when you download, when you first open your charts and all those charts open up and they all try to start pinging that site at one time, you're going to have an issue because they'll only let you download it once or twice within a 5-minute period. So if you just wait about 5 minutes after downloading your chart and you right click on it, I just right clicked with my mouse, and you can reload your Ninja script here. And what that'll do is that'll reload the news and it'll reping the site. It'll probably add it on there for you then. That's what I had been doing on the other one. And the whole time we thought it was something with the indicator, but it's not the indicator. I've researched this, and it's actually the site. They're limiting how many times, and if you abuse it and start going, pinging it every few minutes, they can actually ban your IP address, and you won't be able to download any news. So don't abuse it, and make sure you go into this thing and you don't have it checking it every hour or anything like that. Make sure you're checking it once a day is all you need to check it, and if it doesn't load, then recheck it, and like I said, reload it the way I showed you, maybe 5 or 10 minutes after you open your charts. And when I was doing that, it was always loading it up properly and giving me the proper news. Now it does fall off. I did change it to 300 minutes. That's going to be 5 hours, so it'll at least stay on there 5 hours. So if I open up at 7, that's going to still fall off by noon or 1 o'clock or so. So anyway, I might adjust that where it doesn't fall off the chart. I'm going to see if I can go back in and rewrite that a little bit. I'm not really good at writing these programs, so I'm testing this one. So far it worked today, but it says no news, but there wasn't any news. It was over medium, and so there was nothing for it to upload. And you can see I have it set to give us high only. Let's change that to high medium, and it'll notify you 15 minutes prior, so that way we'll have a little more to upload, and it'll stay on there for 300 minutes. And what you could do, and what I'll probably do, is just reload it before I do the chart lesson at the end of the day. That'll just be a second time to load one chart. I should be fine doing that. And that way it'll still be on my chart. Or no, I guess it won't be on my chart because the news item will have been gone. I'm not sure. We'll have to test that. I'll work on that. But anyway, that's the problem. It's not the indicator itself. Part of it is this new indicator because it falls off. I'm going to try to fix that before I send out the final version. And the other problem is just where we get the data from. That was the main problem. It wasn't that it wasn't loading. They weren't allowing it to load. And that's the reason the data wasn't coming in like it was supposed to. So just don't abuse that, because we want to be able to use that. And so you don't want to be abusing it. Just make sure you don't download anything more than you have to, any more than I wouldn't try to download it more than once a day, twice a day at most. And even then, I would probably only download the chart that you definitely need. So you shouldn't be downloading stuff constantly. That's the key. But anyway, I'm gonna get on to the chart lesson here. You can see it was mostly sideways. We did have this sell-off here, and we had more than 2 legs down, but this broke loose, broke lower below the support, overnight support, for a little bit. We failed out once and got back in, and then shot lower again. But then we rallied back into the range and recovered more than half of that. Actually, by the time it closed, it was about half of it. So half of the range. So there it is. Not a lot of trades today. The volume continues to be a little lower. The volatility continues to be a little lower, which can be good or bad. The market doesn't move as fast as it was moving. But the good thing is your bars are not as big. There's plenty of bars that get you in within the 8-tick rule, or very close to it if not. So just keep that in mind. But 7 o'clock came as I think it was right in here somewhere. 7:13. So yeah, right in here on these couple of bars, 7 o'clock came. It's a shame that this wasn't just a little lower. This is one of those that, being that far away from the EMA, this is technically your signal bar. but you can't ignore that. So, I mean, you might trade that as a higher low. Um, I wouldn't fault you if you did, because the odds are prices are going back at least to the EMA there. And this thing is just a spiking channel up. And if you don't take that, you don't really get any other chance to enter. You get a second entry here, but again, it's another inside bar. And you got your close outside now, and you make your new high. I traded this one as a break and new high. It's just a first entry, but still, you can see we're kind of working a little bit sideways there, and this just feels like it's going to turn back down to the EMA right there. So maybe you take that one. And here you get a triple test. Now, it does make a new low, but because it made that 2-bar, let me zoom in here. This is a little hard to see. I'm sorry. Because it makes a 2-bar matching low and closes well inside. If it had been a perfect signal bar, I'd probably made it blue. But I think you could. I think you're safe taking that trade on a bounce there. I think it's a clear, at least a triple, maybe a quadruple test. We did move away here and come back, so you could call that a test of the line, but certainly you got a 1, 2, 3 test right here. And then it runs up, you get a close outside new high and a second entry short on a very nice signal bar. I like that one. Doesn't get more than the scalp. And then we're reversing here. And notice you got a new high and you get a first entry, then it pulls back. So when it breaks above that little 2-bar matching high, it's a second entry long. And I like that one as well. There's not a lot of room to the high there, but this is probably going to trap people, and I like going long there. It continues to move up. You get a close outside, a new high, and then you get a lower high here. Don't trade that on the engulfing bar. Wait for this to close. When it does, I like going short 1 tick below that. Because it's right at the EMA, I'm not super crazy about it, but it's a lower high, and this is played out, so I don't see any problem with taking it. It is a little aggressive, but I still like it. And you can see this was a pretty nice move down. I don't think we really had an overshoot till down here. I think this is more what it looks like, and then you had a little overshoot right here, which leads to the break. Just a first entry right there, but there's a second entry right there. I didn't mark the second entry. Technically, the second entry was right here. If you notice, it makes it a little higher, but to me, that just looks sideways. So I think that's technically the second entry, and you might take that. The signal bar is not perfect, but you may take that. It does make a new high. But it makes a lower high here, and there's still just barely room to scalp out. And really, maybe you count this as the low now. These are still the overnight, working with the overnight lows over here where you get the most closes, but there's exactly 6 ticks in there. You can see it doesn't matter. It ends up going much lower, but you need to make sure you got room to get out there. And this is like 7 ticks, fairly low risk. So I think that's worth taking. There's another second entry here, but signal bar is no good. Moves on down to and continues to make a new low, and then it reverses out of here. There's no way to get long here, but there's a failure right here. So this looks like a reversal failure. This is where you would expect one to happen. Confirms that trend line. You got 2 touches, then your third touch here. I like going long right there. That's a nice move. That's the move of the day so far. And runs up here. You finally get a close outside. It chops along sideways for a bit before it does go to make a new high. But you clearly have a 1, 2, 3 triple test right here. So I like going long right there. It's not a perfect signal bar. There's still plenty of room to get out, but it is right into the midline, and you got to be careful with that sometimes. So I did just mark that one green, but it does run on up to the other side, comes back. Test it again. Now you got a triple test of the upside with a nice signal bar and enough room to get out, and it bounces right off that low. Now I didn't mark this one because there's too much stem and it closed right below the midline. I just think that's too much stem. If you wanted to be aggressive, maybe you take that trade, but I think you're better off to wait. If it takes off, it turns out to be a really nice move. Um, I didn't draw the trend. There is one with a break in new high because this is the retest. You're expecting prices to go higher here, really. So that would be another reason to maybe like that triple test there. But it does. It makes a new high and then gets a second entry long here. This actually breaks lower. I would have liked it better if it would have broke on out on the engulfing bar. But you would have had to wait for this to close no matter what. So I still like going long right there on the higher low. And then you get a second entry short right here. Again, there's a little bit of stem, but with that making two legs up and a second entry short right there, I like going short just to ride it back to the EMA and maybe you catch the high. There is a failure here, but I don't like that one. It looks too congested. There's another second entry here, and now this is the signal bar. And normally I'd tell you, you got to be careful with this or these inside bars, but you can see how bearish that is. It is right off the key entry point. It's a second entry short. I think if you want to take that trade, you can take it. You got to be careful with these. Doesn't mean you can take every inside bar, but sometimes you get a setup like that. I mean, it's hard to deny. It's hard to pass that over because there's not much difference except for a tick there, and the way the ticks count, your bar could have set up with this being equal or maybe even a tick higher. So you just never know. So I think you're okay to take that trade just based on the way tick charts work. And it runs down. We get another little failed break lower here before it turns up. And you get a close outside and a new high in a first entry. Then you make a lower high in a second entry. And that's mostly fully bullish. It broke higher and turned down. So you could have traded that on the engulfing bar. I'd probably wait for this to close to make sure it closes as a bearish bar and then go short right there. And that was another nice move back down to test the lows. And there was a lot of resistance right across here, so no surprise that it turned down there again. And that pretty much was it. Again, not a lot of trades today. Very low. The volume's a little lower than normal, and the volatility is certainly a lot lower. But there's still a lot of mixed trading in there too. It's just an early sell-off that turns out to be mostly sideways. But we got an early sell-off with a correction. So there's a pretty good trend down. The trend up is not so good. It comes up and then it just chops sideways. It comes up and then it's kind of chopping sideways into the close again. So it's not a super trend up, but it is mostly up here. So just keep that in mind as you're trading. I'll continue to work on this indicator and test it. And if everything looks good, I'll send it out. I'll put it on the site soon. And if you're a member of our premium membership, you bet you can download it for free. If you're there already, you can already download the one that's out there that I just uploaded. There's nothing wrong with it. I basically based this one off of that one. I copied a lot of the information from that one. And so I'll keep working on it. I'll see if I can fix those couple of other things, and I'll make sure it's working properly. And if it is, it's working like we talked about. When I open mine up, I open up 3 different charts. I open up a daily chart, I open up my 2000 tick chart, and then I'm running a 1200 tick chart. So that's me pinging the site 3 times, and it doesn't like that all at one time, and it's probably limiting me right out of the gate because of that. And that may be what's happening to some of the others of you. Sometimes when I log on, one of the charts will upload and one of them won't. And maybe it's the first one that pings, goes ahead and gets the reply, and the others don't. I'm not sure. But I know that if I wait about 5 minutes and right click on my chart, it uploads it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off my daily chart and not display it there anymore. And I'll probably even take it off my 1200 tick chart because I don't really need it but on my main trading chart. If you have it on this, installed on a bunch of charts, unless it's your main trading chart, take it off because it'll probably help you to download it easier with less problems, and there's less chance of you getting banned from or limited on your downloads. So that's probably a good idea for people to do. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. There's supposed to be a couple of news items tomorrow. I think they're mostly medium, but there are a few items tomorrow. We'll see how the indicator works tomorrow, and I'll test it all week before I post it to the site, or at least for a few days, and we'll see how it's working, and we'll go from there. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.